Hi, I'm Tracey L. Fisher, the face of Reentry. I'm going to do this short little video on returning citizen, the mind frame of the individual that come home from being incarcerated. People always ask me about how can I help someone when they come home? What does it take to help someone when they come home? Well, first of all, you have to understand the mind frame of the individual, he or she, when they come home. And most of the individuals that come home, not all, but most of them, majority of them, they come home broken. They come home weak, especially the males. They spend their whole time in jail working out, doing exercise, sitting around, reading frivolous books, watching frivolous TV, having frivolous conversation, right? But they don't work their brain mentally. So when they come home, physically they're strong, but mentally they're weak. And when they come into society, they don't know what to expect. They're afraid, and nobody knows how to deal with them because they're not telling you they're afraid once they enter back into society. But the reality of it is, everyone needs to see a psychiatrist. Not that you're crazy, but you need to see a psychiatrist to help you get your thoughts straight so you can understand what's going on out here in society. Because the only thing you know is an incarcerated environment. There's two yous when you come home. There's the incarcerated you, and there's the society you. Once you're in the society, obstacles come your way. Situations occur. And the only thing you know how to do is handle it with a incarcerated mind frame. And when you handle it with a incarcerated mind frame, that's why the recidivism rate is so high. That's why you go back to jail. Because you didn't know how to function out here in society. Because you was never taught how to be responsible when you was incarcerated. That's because when you was in society, you wasn't responsible. That's why you went to jail. So the rehabilitation part of jail is non-existent. It don't exist. You have to rehabilitate yourself. If you're looking for the government to rehabilitate you so you can come home and be productive in society, you done really lost your mind. Because there's no way in the world that the government is going to allow you to come home and be productive in society and stop their money flow. They make money off of you once you go to jail. Everybody gets paid when you go to jail. When you go to jail, you create over 100 jobs. The cops lock you up. The judge, the DA, the prosecutor, the public defender, the sheriff, the county judge, the COs, the wardens, everyone. Everybody makes money off you but you. But you. Now, when I was incarcerated years ago, they was making $32,000 a year. They made over $700,000 plus off of me just for them 22 years. Now they receiving $42,000 a year. It done went up $10,000. So if the government is making $1 trillion off of this business here, but they only putting in $100 million to actually so-called help it from actually occurring again, that's not going to happen. Anytime you have the power to make the laws, to lock people up, to build a place that would house them and receive government funding from them, for them, there's no way in the world you're going to put together a program to help them get out and stay out and never come back into your system. Now, my thing is this. The individuals that's home, that's out here in society, that's never been incarcerated before, reentry affects you as well as it does the individual that's incarcerated. As well as it does the individual that's incarcerated. But we don't understand that until we right in front of it. Like for the men that's in jail and the women that's visiting them, writing them, sending them money, taking their phone calls. Once they come home, you haven't even done anything to prepare yourself to deal with them mentally. You haven't even took any reentry courses because you don't believe you need them. Well, yes, you do. If you're dealing with that's like you have a child and he or she has a handicap that you never dealt with before. It's courses and classes you're going to have to take. It's information you're going to have to get so they can live in your house. You're going to have to make your house handicap ready and everything. That's reality. That's the same thing when individuals come home from being incarcerated. That's the exact same thing right there. When they come home from being incarcerated, they looking for someone to understand them. And then you're the one they laying with, sleeping with, living with, building a family with. You the one have to understand this just as much as them, if not even more. Because you already know how it is out here in society. We don't. We don't. Because we was never given responsibility when we was incarcerated. While we was incarcerated, let me tell you what happened. They had a job for us when we got there. We didn't have to fill out an application. We didn't have to get Obamacare because they already had Medicare care for you in there. They already had food for you in there. They had shelter for you in there, right? If I sent you $100 a month, it was up to you to do whatever you wanted to do with that $100. Whatever you wanted to do. You can spend it, you can save it, or you can send it home. Out here in society, before you even get the $100 is already spent on a light bill, the cable bill, your cell phone bill, or whatever. Responsibility. Responsibility, responsibility. We wasn't given any of that in there. So once we come home, the first thing they say to us now, go home and be productive in society and be responsible. How are we going to be responsible if we was never even taught to be responsible? That's what we have to understand. That's what the youth out here don't understand. That the stuff that they're doing right now, they're not being responsible for their lives. Like when I explain to the youth, when they look up to basketball players or individuals like that. When you look up to basketball players and you see an NBA player, the only reason you've seen that NBA player because they was responsible for their talent. Meaning this, they protect their talent. So when they got to a certain age, their talent can take care of them. There's a lot of individuals incarcerated that can play ball better than some of the ones in the NBA. But because they didn't protect their talent, they are now incarcerated. You have to stay away from individuals that will bring you down. You can't take and lower your standards so they can be with you. Dummy yourself down. Make them smarten themselves up to be around you. This is what individuals don't understand. These are the things that you need to understand. When a man come home or a woman come home from being incarcerated, the first thing they don't need is a relationship. Because they're not stable for a relationship. Especially if you've been going a decade or more. You're not stable for a relationship. You're not used to a relationship. You're not used to sharing nothing. While you incarcerated, your bunk is your bunk. Your shower shoes are your shower shoes. Your soap, your deodorant, your toothpaste, your food you buy from commissary. All that is just for you. You ain't buying nothing to share with anyone. All that is just for you. And now you've been doing stuff for you, just for you for 10 years or more. Now you come home and jump into a relationship. Immediately you understand the sharing. That's not going to happen because that's not even logic. And that's what people don't get. That's what people don't understand. When the mind frame of an incarcerated person come home, we're weak. We're beaten down. We're afraid. We in uncharted territory. We don't know what to do. Then you got these watered down reentry programs. One size fit all. Oh, we'll help you get your GED. We'll help you get your identification, what you need, to work and everything. I'm not knocking it, but I'm just giving you the watered down version of it, right? We'll help you try to find housing, this, and that. Okay, now what happens after you get all that? Now you got all that. Now what happens? Because when I came home, I didn't need a GED. I had a degree. I didn't need no housing. I had housing. I didn't need no ID. I had my ID. I didn't need no birth certificate, social security card. I had all that. So where was my reentry at? Because I needed someone that has been through what I've been through, right? And understand the mentality of what I'm going through right now, my mentality. So the thoughts that pop back in my head, it's hard out here. I'm struggling out here. What do I do? How do I go and get something done? How do I keep these thoughts out of my head to go in the streets and hustle again? Where was that reentry at? That's one of the main reasons why I created Gateway to Reentry. Because I had to be the voice for those that was voiceless. Then you got individuals that get a job, a government job, and say they doing reentry. I'm sorry to say this. No, I'm not. I'm not sorry to say this. This is just the truth being spoken. You're not doing reentry if the government paying you to do reentry. You're not. You're doing your entry. You're doing his entry. You're not doing reentry. Because here's why I know you're not doing reentry. The moment you take a paycheck and you take and start building a life off of that paycheck, you got your kids going to private school, you got a mortgage, you got a car note, and you have a certain lifestyle now because of this paycheck. A cause will come up and your boss will come to you and say to you, Mr. James, I don't want you to fight for that cause. And because I'm your boss, Because I'm your boss, you have to listen to me. Or lose that children in school, car note, mortgage, and everything else that lifestyle comes with that. Now, that's not reentry. That is not reentry at all. My reentry, independent reentry, I can fight for any cause there is. Any cause. No one can come to me and say, Tracey L. Fisher, I don't want you to fight for that cause. Well, they can come tell me that, but then you know what's going to happen after that. They'll never tell me that again. You best believe that. And that's reality. That is reality. My goal is to remove the government hand out of reentry, because that's an oxymoron. There's no way in the world the government hand is in reentry, but yet reentry is going to be great for the community. It's going to be great for the individuals reentering back into society when they have a control over it. It's not going to happen. You got individuals that got six-figure salaries and that has a title of reentry and never been incarcerated in their life. That's like a person going to AA and then they give them a sponsor that never even took a drink before, don't even know what it's like to be drunk before. So how you going to relate to them? How are they going to empathize with you about you drinking and falling down until you black out and all that, and they can't even give you stories that they used to do that it's going to be okay? That's not even going to happen. That's not even realistic. But that's what we get in reentry now. You got people go to school, get an associate degree in human service and stuff like that, and now they the expert on reentry and psychology and so forth and so on. You don't even understand the incarcerated mind unless your mind has been incarcerated. You can't even talk about what it's like to be incarcerated if you've never ever been incarcerated. There's no way in the world for that to happen. That's why I'm sitting here today, to get people to understand reentry is in everything we do. It's in the supermarket, because the person that's ringing up the cashier just got a job, just came home. It's next door, your neighbor, grandson done came home, even though you live out in the suburbs, right? Reentry is everywhere you look. If you go back to school, it's right there. There's people, the students sitting next to you, riding on the bus, everything. Reentry is in everything, in the church, the masjid, the synagogue, and anything else religious. It's right there. People try to ignore reentry, but you can't ignore. It's like trying to ignore the sun on a sunny day. How you gonna do that? You can squint your eyes, you can put shades on and all that, and you still know it's there. You still feel the heat of it. That's reentry. Reentry ain't going nowhere. I don't care who you are, what you say you represent. If you receive a check from the government to do reentry, you're not doing reentry. You're doing his entry. You're not doing prevention. You're not doing none of that. I don't care who you are, what program you're a part of. If they can pay you to do that program, then everything you develop under that program, it's not even yours. It's theirs. If they decide, just like take my 10 steps. Suppose I work for the government, and then I developed my 10 steps while I was receiving a paycheck. Those ain't my 10 steps. They can fire me and keep my 10 steps. They can fire me and keep my 10 steps. Even though my 10 steps can save the world, but they're not mine. They're not mine. So what they rather do is this. They rather give you the treatment for AIDS, but not the cure for AIDS, because the money ain't in the cure. It's in the treatment. It's in the treatment. So when you're doing reentry and they paying you to do reentry, they giving you the treatment check. They ain't giving you the cure check, because they ain't going to allow you to cure reentry. They're not going to allow it. That's why organizations like Gateway to Reentry, right? That's why this organization here is at the level it's at. I don't receive no government funding or none of that. I go out of pocket from my book sales, from my DVD sales, and my support from the community and those that got love for me. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. And I can stand up next to any program in the world. Why? Because I have one thing that none of them programs have. Well, two things. One, Tracey L. Fisher. Two, 10 steps to reentry. No program in the world has it. And if you find one that do have it, let me know so I can sue them. And on that note, thank you. And I'm Tracey L. Fisher, the face of reentry, and this is a reentry point of view.